Mike Burris here. We're going through these blogs on coaches and facilitators, the equippers, right, that equip the saints to do the work of the ministry. It makes the saints the ministers. It doesn't make the coaches and facilitators the ministers unless you view them as part of the saints, but really it's all the saints that are the ministers. So I don't know, it seems like religion, churchianity got the best of us once again. Well, we're in blog topic 7, and it's a continuation of the previous blog, really on let the little children come to me. And so we're going to look at this, but let's just be a little child. It's Halloween. People are being little children out there. Even the adults are having fun. See, this is Buddy Rich, greatest, the Mozart of drumming. And I'm just going with the flow. Look at the spontaneous page. I'm not a Buddy Rich. That guy's hands were just crazy. Oh, Matthew 18, verse 3 through 4 says, Then Jesus called a young infant child. He uses a lot of key words here. Paidion is this word, a young infant child, and that is under 7 to 8 years old. And you can say, well, how do you know these things? Because you can go out to Bible Hub or Classic Net Bible, maybe some other tools. Those are two easy ones that I've used for years. And you can click on that word, paidion, where we get podiatry or pediatrics. And that's what it means. So it says, Then Jesus called a young infant child to himself, set him in the midst of them. And literally, this means he had to stand him up. He was that young, he was going to fall over. So that, what do you call that? 1 to 2 years old maybe. And said, Surely I say to you, unless you are converted, it's a word there, Greek. They didn't write in English. We have 900 English Bibles. They don't come close to the Greek. They're all trying to say print space to make money. You just can't do that from one language to the next. So, word pictures, one language's word pictures don't correspond to our word pictures. There's a lot lost in translation. Look at Bible info. I have an exegetical degree, or pretty much. I went to 5 Bible colleges, so I'm not going to brag about that. I just very expensive. Whew, man. It says, I surely say to you, unless you are converted and become a young infant child, as young infant children, plural, you will by no means enter the kingdom of heaven. Therefore, whoever humbles, and the word means lowers, himself as this paidion young child, right, that little young child again, is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven. Now think about that. Do you look at little kids under 7 to 8 years old, and in this probably 2 to 2 years, you had to keep them from falling over? Ay. And you look at them and say, we have to be like them. What is it about them we have to be like? The one thing about little young infant children, they can't and don't need, they just can't get caught up in sophisticated reasoning as to why to listen to what their parents tell them to think or do. They don't get into the whys when they're really young. That's later on, right? They innately know this. They innately know this, and their parents don't expect them to. engage on them on an adult level. They don't get into the whys. They tell them not to run out into the street. I was really bad at that because they want to protect them from danger. Little kids don't have a clue what a car is or how dangerous it can be. Really. My dad said I was a lot of close calls. Our Heavenly Father doesn't need to go into contextual, rational, higher critical reasoning, the Germans read into, all the scholastic stuff of gnosis, informational explanation, when it's, diagnosis, but this gnosis means knowledge, informational knowledge, right? That's what gnosis means. It means informational knowledge. And God doesn't have to go into all the details as to why we need to do something when he gives us such warnings. He hopes that our fellowship, our relationship is good enough that as a little child, we simply trust and obey. Just like as the song says, trust and obey, for there's no other way but to be happy in Jesus than to trust and obey. Right? That's what he's hoping. And, later on, when they grow up, kids like to ask why. When they are teenagers, they could care less about the whys and just believe their way of thinking is better anyways. Right? They don't care about your why. So why is a brief moment. And even if they understood why, they often just want to rebel anyways. Right? The older we get, the more and more unlikely we will simply trust what God has to say, not try to overanalyze it or try to rationalize around it. After all, the deception of Satan in the Garden of Eden was to say, did God really say that? And didn't he really mean this? And I read all this scholarly work, and that's what they do. The Lord is telling Christians and musicians that we need to reset back to the beginning. Be like these very young, trusting children that just listen and trust. Now, I have to qualify this. This is not trusting 900 English Bibles. That is a leap of crazy faith. That is a leap of crazy faith. You don't even know who writes these Bibles. You should see the people that are listed on these Bibles and go research them. I have. A lot of them are atheists. They're from other religions. They have no desire whatsoever to be completely objective. They have serious conflicts of interest. And there's a lot of doctrinal bias. Some of these are written by one denomination that believes they're it and everybody else is going to hell. And so they got some serious doctrinal blinders on. And it goes on and on and on. So I would say use the tools, go look at Bible Info, and really pray. There's a better way. Go look at Bible Info. And I talk about there is a better way to do this. Is it naive or foolish or ignorant or too fundamentalist? I was told fundamentalism. Oh, that was a bad word for a long time. To be like a Padian young infant child when it comes to God's message to us? Do the postmodernists, the German textual higher critics, I used to have 1,000 books, and demythification experts of many mainstream Christian denominations. Oh, they think they're so much smarter than everybody else. Episcopalian, Lutherans, some of the stuff they come up with, it's borderline hellacious. They suppose they are more enlightened. They're like the Gnostics that Paul was dealing with. They were high and mighty, or the philosophers, the Greek philosophers. We're so much smarter than all you guys. And so then they're so much more enlightened than millions of Christians that have come before them. Talk about arrogance. do they really have an advantage over all the other Christians? Are these special people? They want to be special. They have titles and offices and make lots of money. Are these special people of clergy really smarter than the common laity? Is there greatness of wisdom that says, God, did you really say this? I mean, they just pick apart the Lord's Prayer. They pick apart everything. They said, nah, he didn't really say that. Make them any closer to being like Padian young infant children. Did it really help? That Jesus calls us to be? Do they really have a clear picture of how to be saved? They made it really complicated. Is there a broader road that encompasses more of the scientific thought of men in the last 100 years, really helping Christians walk through what Jesus says was the narrow gate that leads to genuine life? A narrow gate. And that narrow gate is an intimate relationship. That's what he says. Does it? This narrow gate, does it actually lead to a genuine relationship with Jesus, with God? So we're going to explore this in the next blog. Let's see what the Apostle Paul, an ambassador of Christ, sent to the smart thinking special people of Greece. He's dealing with these special people. So we'll go look at what that is. But I have a reflection here on what we just said. As Christian musicians, are we concerned with reaching adults or those as simple as little infant-like children? Are we using adult ways to reach people, or the ways God would reach us as little children? He's trying to reach us as little children. So we really need to see what that is and get with the program. Get with his program. Get out of the traditions of men that Jesus was always criticizing. They got so far off track, they didn't even know God, Jesus said. You do not love God, and you certainly don't know God. So easy, 1,500 years, they got really off the track. And I think there's been so much religion, water under the bridge, that we get really off the track. And it's crazy. So we need to go look at what is the track that we need to get back on. I look forward to your comments down below on the comment section so we can all learn and be encouraged together. That's what Paul talks about. 1 Corinthians 14, we're all weighing in, taking turns one after another, and then we can all learn and be encouraged together. So go look at that. 1 Corinthians 14 is all about body ministry. There's a tab called body ministry that goes into that. So this is how we really do it, man. Let's do it up. God bless you. Bye-bye.